feel like writing is often a career hobby that can be glamorized. And while it can be glamorous, the everyday is generally not. Hi, I'm Karina. I'm an author of 2 self published books, and here are my top 5 tips on how to write so you can actually finish your book. Now, if you are a writer, you've probably looked up videos or Googled, how can you write to be able to be most productive? And there are a lot of ideas out there, and all of them are really, really good ideas. I am the type of person that when I look stuff up, they talked about, building a routine for yourself, and that does not work for me. I'm definitely the chaotic type of creative, and I assume there are other creative people out there like me that when you hold yourself to a rigid schedule, it actually drains your creativity instead of helping it thrive. And so I've had to adjust some to be able to finish 2 books along with the more that I'm working on right now towards. And there's just a few things that I found that work and some that don't. So here are the 5 things I found that have really helped me with actually pushing forward and being able to finish my drafts and get to a point where I could publish them. Tip number 1 is to write regularly. Now, this is probably the most used tip in the writing community, but that's for a good reason. Most people will say you need to build a routine around your writing schedule. Make sure you write at the same time every day or for the same amount of time to make sure that you are training your brain to be creative then. I have found that does not work for me. I am a mother, I'm ADHD, and just that doesn't work for me between my creative process and having a baby that needs me randomly. And so what I have found is that instead of dedicating certain times of the day to writing, I just make sure that I make writing a priority daily. So instead of making sure I get up at 6 a.m. every single day to write, 2,000 words, I simply, when the baby lays down for his nap in the morning, I write for as long as I can then. When he takes his bottle in the evening and my husband's watching him for a little bit, I write then. So it's just about making it a priority, not necessarily about sticking to a strict schedule if you are not the type of person that thrives off of that. Tip number 2, be flexible. So kind of along with not sticking to too strict of a schedule, make sure you're feeling okay writing for short bursts of time instead of sitting down for one long session. Make sure you're okay writing on different types of devices. Currently, with my baby, he's at the point where I can finally put him down and work on a laptop or a computer. But for a while, he was really struggling with being put down. And so I actually wrote a few chapters of my current work in progress on my phone while I was holding him. It was slow going. I did not enjoy it. It was not my favorite way to write. But I was able to write and get words on the page because I was flexible and finding solutions to make sure that I could still get my word count in. Tip number 3, know what you're going to write before you start writing. Now, if you are a chaotic creative like I am, you may find that you struggle with plotting out your books. That's totally fine. I am like a bare minimum plotter. I know the basic structure of where I want my story to go, and often my story ends up actually changing from that structure as I write it. And so what I have found to be helpful is when I finish the portion that I'm working on for that day, I go in and just write 2 or 3 bullet points for what I want to happen next. And then when I come back to that, it's so much easier to pick it up and remember what I wanted to happen there because I don't have a detailed plot to go and look at for every single chapter that I'm writing. Number 4, other work counts as writing. Now, I don't necessarily mean doing the laundry or doing the dishes counts as writing, although they can. What I mean is similar to plotting out your story. If you find that you're struggling, if you've hit a point where you just aren't sure where to go next, sometimes taking a step back and just thinking about your story is actually going to lead you a lot further than staring at the blank page for an hour will. So, if you take a step back and think about the story, think about the characters, maybe develop and dive into them a little bit deeper, fill out some worksheets, maybe find a plot worksheet and go through that. Those things can be hugely helpful for keeping the story moving so that you don't get stuck. And then last, kind of leading into that, is make sure that you take rest days. I've heard a lot of authors talk about how they schedule in rest days to their schedule. That's fantastic. If you are that person, again, likes to schedule, go for it. I do not like the schedule. I struggle with that. So if I decide that I am going to not write at all on Saturday, but then I'm really inspired and I really want to write, I'm going to struggle with that to take that rest day. So what I find instead is playing it by ear. If I'm feeling really inspired and loving what I'm working on, I'm going to write. I'm going to go for it and get as much out as I can then. If I find I'm really struggling and it just is not flowing and it's painful almost, that's a day that I need to step back, find something to rejuvenate myself. For me, I love going outside, going on hikes, walks, maybe visiting with a friend, maybe going and getting a treat down at the local coffee shop. Anything like that, I find really helps then for the next day to come back and be in a creative headspace and have it work. Those are my top 5 tips for writing to help make you a more productive writer so you can actually go and finish that book. Please leave your comments down below for any tips that you have on writing so we can all share them with each other and all can become better writers. Thanks. Bye.